Welcome back. This is your man Warrior. This is another patron roster review, and this is BigDog. This is a different BigDog than the last review that I had done. The last BigDog was actually an Uber whale, and that was about 6 months ago or so. This is a new BigDog. He is mostly free to play. He spends very little money in the game, and he's played for almost a year. And shout out to Galaxy of Zeros, which is where he is with. Now, he is running a team that he knows he's not getting very good results with in Arena. There is some synergy here, and offensively it does decent, but he's got to do something else for Arena long term. He also wants to know about his farming plan to get BB-8, Ray, CLS. Those are characters, of course, that he knows he wants, and that is a good thing. He's focused on them. And then, of course, ships. He's in the top 100, surprisingly, and has some very good ships that he's developed, but there are a couple other ships I'm going to highly recommend you develop and get into the lineup for what you're looking at farming. And then lastly, he wanted to talk about mods. He's just having a frustrating time with mods and getting good mods, and we all are there. It feels the same pretty much across the board for everyone, but I will give you some tips. So the first thing we're going to go into right away is Arena. Now, because you're mostly free to play and because you've played just under a year, the availability of really good characters over time takes a little while, and so you can see most of your characters are like gear 7, 8, or 9, and so there's not a ton that you have developed. But looking at what you have most developed, the team that kind of pops out for me is Wedge, Lead, and Biggs. Now, Wedge, Lead, and Biggs, of course, there's that triple mollywop with Biggs is call to assist. He calls another person plus Wedge, and Wedge is really good because the rebels will gain health, they'll gain speed, and they also gain damage, and so it's a really good leadership ability. And then, of course, with Wedge and Biggs, you can run R2-D2, who is going to help the whole team by stealthing them, which he'll then target whoever's the tankiest of all of your characters. My suggestion is to take in a tank, either Poe Dameron or Royal Guard, whichever is tankier. It looks like Poe Dameron has a little edge on Royal Guard, and that way everybody will be stealthed but the tank. And then you can also bring in Emperor Palpatine. You're probably facing a lot of CLS or Rebel-led teams, and so Emperor Palpatine, provided he's under R2-D2 stealth, is really amazing with all of the amount of damage and stuns that he can do. He's great, but you really want him under stealth, so you got to make sure that R2-D2 is your fastest character. Now, Wedge, Biggs, R2-D2, Poe, and Emperor Palpatine, or instead of Poe, Royal Guard, whichever you prefer, is a starting point, but obviously your ending point is going to be having like CLS in this team with R2-D2. There's obviously the possibility down the road of getting Han Solo or General Kenobi. Side note, if for some reason you're growing and you just don't feel like you're able to do heroic with the team you have now, and you're struggling to do no heroics, and you really want General Kenobi and Han Solo, at some point of development, once you're over about 1.2 to 1.5 million total GP, you may want to search for a team that is actively going after both of the heroic raids. So if that's happening, then excellent. If not, then you may want to be considering that in the near future. Now, as far as Arena goes, it's going to take some time to develop some other characters, but for now, like I said, a better team, in my opinion, than what you're currently using would be Wedge, Biggs, R2-D2, a tank like Poe or Royal Guard, or Emperor Palpatine. Now, as far as your farming, you said you were doing First Order right now. You told me you were working on the First Order because you're trying to get BB-8, and then you said you would do CLS after that, and then you would work on Ray at the end of that. And I have to pause and tell you that I'm actually going to ask you to stop the First Order right now and focus on your rebels, and this is why. CLS is good on any team, and he is an easier farm to get than BB-8. The First Order are harder to farm. The only three that you actually need right here, they're all three together in the middle row, is Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, and Old Ben. You need them to 7 stars. You already have R2-D2 and Stormtrooper Han at 7 stars, gear 8. So continue to gear up your Princess Leia and Old Ben to get them to gear 8 at least, and get their last couple of stars on Luke Skywalker, Old Ben, and the last star on Princess Leia. That way you can get CLS the next time he comes around. He's been out twice already, and so his legendary event will probably start to come around a little more frequently now that it's come out a couple of times. Most people that wanted him have him, and so they're going to start to bring those legendary events out probably every other month or so. So because of that, you're definitely going to want to finish him off first. He's one of the best leads, and you have a lot of rebels already geared up, and the team I suggest with Wedge, Biggs, R2, like that's all rebels, right? So he would fit very well into your arena and take over nicely into one of those slots. So I recommend you go for CLS first. Second, I then recommend that you do First Order. And First Order at gear 8 and above is sufficient, so that where you have them geared is fine. What you really need to do is finish starring them. And of course, you need a star on Captain Phasma, First Order Officer, a couple on Stormtrooper, and a couple on Pilot. And I know Stormtrooper and Pilot are both difficult, but you'll find them in a number of areas. And so First Order Stormtrooper has 3 nodes. You can now get up to 5 attempts. That's 15 attempts a day. If you get even a third drop rate, that's about 5 shards a day. So the Stormtrooper should move decently. And the First Order TIE Pilot, while he has a couple of nodes, he also drops in the ship store occasionally as well. So there is that. And then also you said you wanted to go for Rey. And of course, once you have BB-8, and of course you've got, you know, your Poe and R2 and all that, you're looking really good for Rey, except your scoundrels, and you've got both of the veteran smugglers at 4 stars, gear 6 and 7 respectively, so you're going to want to get them to at least gear 8 and then 7 stars. Now they're both out of Cantina, and that's one of those things you'll have to do one at a time. Side note, while looking in here, I did note that you have unlocked at 5-star Han Solo. Han Solo at 5 stars, gear 1, level 1, and that kind of boggled my mind because he should be in your arena team as one of your mass damage dealers. You could even replace someone like Emperor Palpatine with him, and he would bring that rebel synergy as well. And Han Solo is one of the highest DPS characters in the game. Mine often does 30k, then 20k, then 10k, 60 grand in one turn against one person, and can pretty much wipe out anybody in the game. So now that we've established your arena team, and now that we've established that you should go for CLS first, BB-8 second, and then Rey third with the vets, we're going to move on to ships. Now, ships is one of those few places you actually are doing really, really well for a mostly free-to-play person that has less than a year in. You're in the top 100, and that is phenomenal, and I think we can get you further. And all in all, you picked a really good top 5. However, I would probably pull your Wedge ship and put in Rex in his spot, and I would probably pull out the Resistance ship that you're using for one of the TIE fighters, the Imperial TIE fighter, because you are using the First Order TIE fighter. But ultimately, I think that the team that you're using should be Biggs, the TIE Advanced, those 2 bottom ships you're using, the Imperial TIE fighter and the First Order TIE fighter, and then Rex. Those are all target lock teams. All 5 of them do target lock. They all have target lock synergy. Now, the 3 ships that I don't see in your ship's lineup anywhere that I highly recommend, and they're actually all, 2 of them will be dark side, 1 will be light side, and they're just really good overpowered ships that will really take you to the next level, is going to be the Scimitar, which you don't have, Slave 1, which you don't have, and of course the Umbaran Starfighter. The Umbaran Starfighter is an excellent ship for the light side, but very specifically to help make your team more durable on defense and also help you on offense survive as you start to climb into that top 50. So I would recommend you farming up the Scimitar, Slave 1, and Umbaran. Keeping in mind with your pilots that you need to continue to gear them to at least gear 9 as kind of the base platform of where you want to take them to. Obviously, in game, you want to take them to 11, but for now, gear 9 is really a good target. You want them at 7 stars, and you want to take their abilities to level 7. This is really going to help. Even if your pilots are not being utilized anywhere else in the game, you still want to put 5-dot mods on them. So if you have any junk 5-dot mods, which you tell me you have some junk mods, these are the people that you'd put them on. Now, for any others, you said mods are an issue and you're struggling to get mods. That is just the name of the game. Mods are the hardest thing to get. But you also said you do spend a little bit of money. Very little, but you do spend a little bit. Because of that, if and when you ever stumble upon crystals, whether purchased or earned, you should use them exclusively for refreshes in either Cantina or normal energy. I would split up your crystals between the two and do some Cantina and do some of that. And you're probably using most of your Cantina energy for characters, and rightly so. I understand why. It's really difficult to get characters, and there's so many good ones out of Cantina. So because of that, you're going to want to have the days of farming. Now, you mentioned you knew about the 5 days farming characters, 2 days farming on the weekends for mods. I've made that suggestion, and you said I think that's the direction you're following, but you're still struggling with mods. So if that's the case, then try a 4-3 split. Do 4 days of farming characters and 3 days of farming mods. An extra day of farming mods should give you a third better result than what you're currently getting. And I know you don't get much, and that's the same way across the board for most people, but sadly that's just the name of the game. So just keep going. You'll eventually continue to get them. Also for mods, make sure that you always try to keep your last 5 million credits unspent, so that way when a good mod falls into the mod store for credits, you can purchase it. If you're unsure of whether it's worth it or not, you can always hit me up privately and I can tell you whether that mod is worth your credits. So BigDog, you're doing really well for basically almost completely free to play. You're almost at that year threshold, a couple months away from that year threshold, and things are going pretty good. You're top 500 in arena and your top 100 in fleet arena. And I think with a new team like the Wedge, Biggs, R2, Emperor Palpatine, and a tank like Poe or a Royal Guard, you should be able to climb even into the possible top 200. But again, you are going to have to continue, obviously, to gear these guys up. I think you're really close to getting CLS. I'm sure he'll be coming back soon. And of course, you'll have the characters ready by then. And it looks like your first order's coming around for BB-8. By that time, Rey, hopefully in the next 3 to 4 months, will come back again, and you will have some of the best characters in the game. Remember, Han Solo, you have 5 stars, level 1, gear 1. Get that bad boy up. Make him your #1 priority for gear. Give it to him because he's amazing. As always, BigDog, if anyone has any thoughts or comments, leave them down below and keep it gaming on. Warrior, out.